Hi.
Hey, honey.
Hey. Oh, it's so good to see everybody. I'm going to put our prompt in the chat and we can go ahead and start our prompt for today. Today is going to be a little bit shorter than usual.
Name what little thing can make you jealous.
I can attest to, and it's worth saying, that there is without a doubt a cultural imperative for possession and jealousy within the Latino culture. It exists. It's very real, and I experience it very, very frequently. There's also a cultural component in poly, which is complex and which we have to talk about.
My jealousy, it always stems from some deep insecurity that is being revealed to me in a moment, and usually is when I'm witnessing anyone, someone else, my partner, friend, whatever, have ease and joy and lightness when I'm in a heavy, sad place. I get jealous of happiness, and it like pushes me even further away. It's like I dig myself into a hole of like, why am I not feeling that? I'm having the same experience. Like, at a party, everyone has the same resources, but I'm just not having that lightness. I'm jealous of every single one of you smiling, dancing, bobbing, like.
Thank you. Don't forget that jealousy is a perception of things that you don't have or a perception of lack. Overwhelmingly, what I heard everyone say was that theirs stems from the need to feel special or a lack of being special. So when people do things that with someone else that we wanted to do, or when people do things with other people that we thought were exclusive to us, this idea of specialness in relationships in general is a really fascinating concept within jealousy. And I think it's going to be one of the things that we talk about next in poly, because the conception of what is special is completely torn apart by poly paradigms. Specialness and what makes a relationship special, because you're supposed to be the only one. But what if you're not the only one? Then what makes you special after that? That's actually one of the really most difficult things. And particularly, I think, when you're somebody coming into a new relationship. No, it's in two places. The person who is the vertice, the angle, the end of the triangle, they don't feel this, but the people at the other end of the triangles do. So, for example, when the new partner comes in, they have a realization like, oh man, I'm never going to get to have X, Y, or Z with this person. Like, I won't get to pick out a bed, like Ariel said. I won't get to like have these domestic experiences that they get to have. That feels really special, and I want that. Or on the other hand, somebody who is in the relationship who has had all these things before, and now the specialness is being given to someone else. And that specialness, first of all, that as a concept is its own really key aspect, and challenging your conceptions about what is special and what makes you special and what makes a relationship special and what makes habits special is one of the deep philosophical dives that we get to go into as polyamorous people. Because, for example, and I spoke about it last time, Daniellow and I had this big, gorgeous bed, and I legit was like, no one else can be in here except for Devin for a while. But I knew that that was going to end. I just knew that the fact that we purchased this massive thing together really meant a lot to me for a while. So that's one of the things we get to tackle. But the other part of the specialness conversation is the conversation of comparison. So last week, 2 weeks ago, we did overarching ideas about jealousy, more related to self. Last week, we did it from the perspective of the partners that are already established. And now we're going to do it from the perspective of somebody who might be walking into a new relationship and the things that they might experience. But the things are still applicable in all sides. So if you're the established partner, it could create some empathy, and it's the same idea. But the difference is with the established partnership, there's an element of threat. And with somebody walking into an established partnership, the new person, it's an element of competition, which is also kind of Darwinian. It's kind of natural. There's a certain amount of not repressing, that's totally the wrong word, of reckoning with some of our animalistic behaviors that we get to do when we engage in these ulterior relationships. So, does anyone have questions for me before I start discussing where we're going?
I just want to say hi, Philippe.
That too.
There's a thing that I learned when this idea of specialness was being revealed to me, which was that no one is special, but everyone is important. And that helped me to like wrap my head around this idea of kind of mourning the loss of specialness, mourning the death of specialness, and what that once meant in my life.
Yeah, it was actually it was a thing that I learned as a teacher, particularly as a teacher in low income and in poverty schools. You really want to be the teacher to save their lives, to like you want to be that human. And if you're attached to being that human, to being special, you're not going to perform as well as a teacher as if you are really present to the fact that you are important. You are one cog in this massive system that's going to change these students' lives. And so one of the ways I've extrapolated it to Poly is that I am one cog in a system that is part of the love that runs this beautiful human that I'm engaged with. So I always start by discussing about jealousy is not as inherently bad. It's not inherently bad. It's very natural. And don't forget that jealousy is always an indication of usually some other emotion. And the real gift when you're somebody new stepping into a new relationship, I mean, this is for established partners too, is that you're going to see your values and you're going to see your trigger points, and it's particularly difficult.
That's a good word.
It's a great word.
Yeah.
Difficult if you are a poly person. You are a person walking into a relationship and you don't have your own partner. If you don't have your own partner, or if you're not like I am solo poly, this is what I do. I'm comfortable with this. It makes it even harder because you have nothing to hold on to. And as a reminder, we attribute jealousy to happening when there is a stimulus. For example, I am jealous when my partner's kissing someone. I am jealous when I see entrepreneurs, since I can see Philippe's face. I am jealous when someone is flirting with my damn crush. So what we want to do is we want the stimulus to stop. But what we are doing, because we are not normal people, because we are outliers, we are polyamorous, we want to explore ourselves, is that we are accepting that this jealousy is an indication of some other negative emotion, and we don't need the stimulus to stop. We get to explore why the stimulus bothers us. We can request that the stimulus stop, sure, but this is something that I wanted to go over.
Yeah, and sometimes it helps if the stimulus stops for a few moments so that you can actually understand the thing more, so you're not just in a state of being triggered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the killer in walking into an established partnership is competing and comparing. That is going to destroy anybody walking into a new relationship, and it's very difficult not to do it, which is why when I see I've got a crush and they're like looking at somebody else, I'm looking at them going like, why are they prettier than me? Why are they cuter than me? And it's so natural to do. It comes up in me, and I'm seasoned. I'm a seasoned polyamorous. I've been doing this
And
for
also
a long time.
not naturally a very jealous person.
No, I'm really not. And yet the animalistic kind of comparison still comes up. So we've made a walking through jealousy checklist. We've had it at the last two
Of this series.
series. I've modified it ever so slightly because when you're somebody new walking into an established partnership, sometimes you get jealous, and sometimes part of your data check is actually, is this something that I can reasonably ask for or expect from this new relationship? Because you walk in and you're like, wow, they're having all these amazing connections. I want to have that too. And it's even more blatant than if you're walking into a monogamous paradigm. Like when somebody monogamous meets someone monogamous and you guys get together, and then there's certain things that there's a process. You can't rush love, for example, and it's a little easier to kind of accept and be okay with than when you're watching this person you love already beyond the place that you want to be, and you're like, damn, I want to get there. You really want to get there, and can you reasonably expect, polyamorous or not, to have that connection? So, for example, if I'm
Not
walking...
without patience, not without an incredible amount of patience.
Does everyone understand the idea of reasonably ask? Like, for example, if somebody walks into a relationship where there's children, let's take it out of poly. Let's make it monogamous. If somebody new is dating somebody who is single but has children, those children are always going to come before them because it's their children. And if you're trying to compete with the person already in that person's life, you're not going to win. And you shouldn't, because it's their children. Now, that being said, it is not okay to emotionally abuse people who come into new relationships. The new person coming in there, their emotions are just as important and just as honored as the people who are already there. No matter what kind of poly you do, whether it's anarchy, whether you have no hierarchy, whether you're doing primary, secondary, and all that stuff, you have to honor all emotions on all sides. This is not a competition for emotions. That's not okay. And if you are a third walking into an established partnership, or if you're a fourth or a fifth, and your emotions are downplayed for somebody else's and not honored, then you're in the wrong place. I just really need to say that and have that be super clear. That's not okay. Does anyone have questions so far?
Actually, with this view, we wouldn't be able to see them, so they'd have to just unmute themselves and talk.
Yeah. Okay, great. If you want to dig deeper, is the thing that I want from my partner, if it's reasonable, I ask for it. If it's not reasonable, I still talk about what that thing is leading to. What is it about? Every single person here talked about things that make them jealous, right? At the beginning. So this is a chance for you to, one more thing. It's more difficult if I already went over that. And if you're a partner walking into a new partnership, the biggest thing you have to lose is the story you create and the expectations you have about where that new partnership is supposed to go. This is also true of monogamous people. Sometimes you see people get together and they create this whole story about who this person is in their lives and what they're supposed to do and where they're supposed to go, and they're so excited for it, and then it all comes crashing down. It's harder to let go of stories than it is to let go of the actual person you're letting go of.
Yeah, so keep in mind, the thing that we talked about last week was if you're in the established partnership and someone's coming in and then you feel that threat, there's actually something there that's tangible that you could lose, which is like, in fact, that's how Lily lost her last husband. Somebody came in and she actually lost him, and that was a tangible thing that she lost, as opposed to the perception, if you're the person coming in, of the relationship that you imagine down the road for the two of you. You see this beautiful connection that they have, and you're like, oh, we can get there, and I want that. And then if it starts to fall apart, you're actually mourning the loss of something that has never really been, and those two things are different.
There's also a lot of fear to be had when you're somebody new. Will you be taken seriously? Are you going to be safe? Will the established relationship throw you by the wayside if it becomes challenging? That's all really scary. And there's also the feeling of intrusion. Like, I'm walking in on this new relationship, and do I belong here?
Yeah, just not knowing what your place is exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So all of these things can trigger a lot of fear for people who are coming in. And what's really cool about this is the comparisons you do with the already established partnership will reveal what you are most sensitive about in your life. So when I get compared to the person who's crushing, what I'm actually seeking, one of my trigger points, is the desire to be really cool. I just want to be cooler than everybody else. That's just what I feel like. I just want to be cool. And someone else might be cooler than me. Like, I know he thinks I'm cool, so that's okay. I don't got to work on that. But this new person doesn't know how cool I am yet. So that's why I get jealous, because I really want to be cool. And I want to be cooler than whoever they're flirting with. And I want them to know how cool I am. And that is what it comes from. That is the deeper part of what's going on there. That's what I'm sensitive to. Can anyone else like name what they're most sensitive to in their jealous interactions? I think when you're walking into someone else's relationship, it reveals different things than when you're the one in the established partnership. That is definitely something that reveals more. Does anyone have questions about these ideas? The ideas that we've gone over. When you walk into a relationship, there's comparison and there's competition. This is nearly Darwinian. Oh, James has a question. Love that. What are you asking, James?
That's helpful, James, because it was interesting when we started the questions off in the chat. I felt like what Lily and I honed in on was the romantic side of jealousy, and then what I heard a lot of, which they're very close, but I heard a lot of other aspects of kind of like external envy. Like there's a way of being and living that you want that you don't have, that isn't necessarily as interpersonal as the relationship you're in a romantic, jealous sense. So I think there is a distinction there.
But even in the distinction, don't both of them point to some deeper desire that we have? whether it's the desire to be seen or the desire or the perception that we're going to lose something, which two classes ago we discussed the idea of jealousy. To me, is always a perception of lack or of possible loss.
I think that even though there is a distinction, the idea behind it is the same, which is that it's kind of like you're projecting something onto somebody else, and there's really a process that's going on inside of you.
Yeah, I have something to add too. As all of these examples are, if the established partnership is a healthy and strong partnership. So as a unicorn coming into different partnerships and seeing them work, I now get excited if the thing that I'm striving for or feeling some jealousy over is like how much love is there in that existing relationship. That's actually a good sign for me now, because I know they're in such a healthy, loving place that now some deep part of me is like, I really want that. And I now know that that's a possibility with these humans because look at what they have together. Whereas coming into a relationship in other scenarios, my presence has been this light that's like now shining through all these cracks, and I can see it and they can see it. And I'm like, it's been a lovely experience and you're not ready. I can see that right now. If I could support you, I'm going to do it from over here. Because there's been like jealousy come up from partners within the relationship and directed, and I can see it's not time or it's not a healthy place for me to be.
Yeah, there's also the positive subsequent, Devin, of you get to see in a really healthy relationship where there's a lot of love and a lot of care and all these things, you get to see what potential in a way is available to you.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my point.
As opposed to the inverse, which is, if they're sharing with you all the challenges they're having in their relationship, you could also see that might be your future.
Yeah. Like if we were going to be the way that we communicate with each other when we're alone, the three of us might be like, oh my God, my life is so terrible. They love each other so much. Oh. The way we like fake exclaim the world is ending, like, that's actually a pretty great problem to have. So I'm glad we get to talk and have these different scripts of ways to talk through it, because the communication there could just lead to so much admiration and positive reflection between the three of you, the four of you, I don't know, however many.
Yeah, it's actually worth speaking to an example of this. I'm not a naturally jealous person, neither is Daniellow, but when Devin came into our relationship, we've mentioned it before, but it's worth mentioning again. My time is really important because I'm a teacher, and it's a it's a demanding job. And so if I've got time to see Daniellow because I'm not working or I have a Monday off, like a miracle, then I cannot have his relationships with anybody else interfere with the little bit of time. This is before we were living together, the little bit of time that we had together. So because I knew what the root of it is, it could have looked like jealousy if I was like, oh, you're spending more time with her. But it's not actually jealousy. It's my desire to have my time honored. So because I knew what that was, I could make a really clear request that she should not impinge on our time. And she was incredibly, every time she's like, oh, now I know what to do. So she would, when they'd make plans, she's like, is this time you could see Lily? And he's like, no, it's specifically not. And she's like, great. Because they knew what it was.
Yeah. And actually, when you can get to the root of the thing, it's essential, because that gave me the opportunity to spend a lot of time with this new relationship that I was having this wonderful new relationship energy with, and like really enjoying Devin, and in a way that it wasn't problematic for Lily at all. And if I didn't like want to play fair, if I felt like, well, now you're sort of pushing against me and my autonomy, I'm going to do it whenever I want, then that would have created a situation where she would have felt jealous, and all of that was totally avoidable. So we had the best of all worlds because she was able to isolate what was the thing that could have made her jealous.
And the other part about it is, if you're in a partnership and the person is jealous, but if you guys are handling your jealousy in a healthy way, like you talk about it, things come up, but you work together for it, then, and it's not going to bleed onto the third, that's okay. Because you don't want to bleed it onto somebody else.
Yeah. And what it did, and you having taken the time to really understand what that value was and communicate it to me, it gave me a choice. In that moment, I can choose, yes, this is something that I can completely 100% respect, honor. I'm committed to navigating this and know that your free time is the priority, like non-negotiable. So yes, I agree. I sign on, and everybody gets, like, we're all happy because we're working around this thing that we all agreed on. It wasn't like months down the road where you're like, I'm really frustrated that you're getting this time spent when I'm free, and like having it blow up. Because I could have just as easily said, that doesn't work for me. I love you guys. I
Peace.
need to be priority. Peace. And you would have said, cool, we love you too. Easy.
You know, Mia, there's a thing that happened early on in like my
Cat unmuted. I want to let her talk.
Oh, perfect. I'll be really quick. It's just early on in my poly experience, I felt jealousy, and then I communicated it. We talked about it, and we kind of just stayed on that path together. And I learned over time that I was safe. The jealousy came up because I wasn't sure if I was safe. So the jealousy is okay because it's part of a process. You get to talk about it, and then you get to be on that path and see where it goes. So yeah, my last note on that for you.
Here's a script for comparisons. I gave you guys a script last week. I'll leave this up, and you can take a picture if you want a script for the comparisons. I believe that I'm experiencing jealousy. You know, I believe I'm competing this way. I don't know if I don't know if it's reasonable for me to ask you this, but it's something I feel like I need. Can you help me understand what it is I'm actually looking for? You know, because whether or not it's reasonable or unreasonable is a decision that you and the partner can make if you're the person coming in. So this is more of a script for those who are coming into the relationship, but you know, you can use them for both. Really.
Yeah, and I think there's a way that Lily's saying this right now, which is really, really important and super helpful if you catch it, which is let yourself stumble through the communication. You know, like let yourself
have it.
But have it. Yeah, like be a little sloppy and be like, in fact, I've said this in this talk weeks and weeks ago, which is, I say to Lily often, I don't even know if what I'm saying is actually true, but I'm going to say it anyway, and then we're going to edit. We're going to like figure out like if what I'm saying is right and correct and all these things. So like let yourself stumble through these communications so that you can work to understanding together.
Totally. And then, oh, we've got some really cool lessons here. Oh my God, so much good in the chat. I didn't have the chat box open.
This is
All
great.
right. So we're going to go to groups now, and you have a choice. You can practice the script, which I've given you about comparison. Is this reasonable? Is this not reasonable? It's just another script. Or what you can do is talk about the little things that create jealousy for you. Reveal time.
And if you're not as familiar with the formatting, this is your prompt breakout room that we're about to do. So having a photo or looking at the chat now is a helpful way to
do it. Yeah. What has reveal time? What has your jealousy revealed to you, particularly for somebody coming in? Because that's really the meat of it. We keep talking about jealousy, but we're lying. We're not actually talking about jealousy. We're talking about all the stuff running it underneath. And
she's going like this under her other hand.
And it may never go away. I still feel this way when I see crushes. I still get jealous of certain things. It doesn't have to go away. It just has to be manageable. It just has to be manageable. Okay, ready for breakout rooms? Breakout! So it's just 2 to 3 participants in a room. Yeah, it's 2 to 3 to 4. Yep. And you guys will have 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
Yep, open.
Sometimes you are coming in and you end up having to deal with an established partner's jealousy. If someone is jealous within an already established partnership, if the jealousy is like really intense or like spilling onto you like this and bleeding all over you, that's a red flag. Don't go there. Just don't go there. But if they have jealousy and it's just there, it just exists, and it's not bleeding all over you, you can choose to be a part of how to help, if you like. And we cannot stress enough. Now, this is our particular way of doing it. There are people who do don't ask, don't tell. I personally have not seen that be functional. I know it functions for somebody because it exists, but I have not seen it be functional. The best way to head off jealousy between established partners and new partners is for them to meet, for one to reach out to the other, and just be like, hey, how are you? This is me, and you are you. None of us is scary, and we're not here to threaten each other. Just the meeting. You don't have to do kitchen table poly. You don't have to be a throuple like me, Daniellow and Devin. Not necessary. But really, it really helps, because what's scariest about being the person coming in is the monster that is the established love who has more than you do. And what's the scariest about the established love is this new monster who's coming in and stealing all the new relationship energy from away from you.
Actually, I would debate that. What's scariest is the monster that is the thing that you don't know but you're imagining.
Exactly.
That's what I was going to say. The monster is the blanks that we fill in with our neurotic little minds.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, like, frankly, if anybody in this group has an example of somebody who has been in a long-sustaining, healthy, vibrant, don't ask, don't tell kind of a poly,
Please let it know.
Please let us know.
We haven't seen it.
I've never seen it, and if it works, if it functions, I'd like to factor that into my my brain, because like we're telling this from our perspective what works.
Kat, for the most part, what I have seen is the thing that you don't know is weirder than the thing that you do know. It is a natural thing to dehumanize people we have not met. And I don't mean dehumanize in that awful way that, like, we can put children in cages kind of dehumanization. I just mean that they are not human to us. They're a figment of our imaginations.
You don't have to.
The way I like to talk about it is I want to be more than a Facebook profile picture, a name, and a little bit of information. And I want that other person to be that same to me, because when you're going on a date with someone, I want to go look and see if she's hot and check her out, but like then I realize I really don't know, this person is like this 2D image to me. I've never met them. So I just want the opportunity to be like, yep, I'm real, you're real, respect, cool. I like to think about it like, I'm cool, I like me, you're cool, I'm attracted to you, we're attracted to each other, then this other person that you're attracted to and is attracted to you must be cool too. Like, there's some common thread. We're gonna, at the very least, like,
agree that they're cool. It's just that it really comes down to the thing that you don't know is scarier than the thing that you do. When you do know it, you're like, oh, well, this person indeed has better breasts than I do, but I've got a better ass, so we're fine. Like, I'm making it really superficial for the sake of humor. But the truth is that it comes down to humanization, and they'll humanize you. I like knowing my partner's partners because I want them to know that I am indeed a human, and I am flesh, and I am blood, and I have a heart, and it's just easier. Now, like I said, not everyone does it this way. Some people do fine not doing it way. Like I said, they're okay, but we find that this heads off jealousy like nothing else, because the thing that I don't know is worse than the thing that I do. And when I see it, I'm like, oh, well, that's not human. They're humaning, just like me. Humans are humans. And it doesn't have to carry the weight of like, oh, I'm meeting my lover's lover. Are we going to like each other? No, don't make it that heavy. It's just like, oh, it just is.
Okay, so you touched on this earlier. When an individual is dating a couple, that couple shows the same consideration for the partner as they ask of them. This is not negotiable. So as Lily mentioned before, all parties have equal consideration. It's not a competition for whose emotions, needs, and desires are more important. In a lot of scenarios that I've seen that aren't the healthiest, it seems like their guiding post is whoever's the most emotionally charged in that moment. Like, they're the ones who win. No, we need equal consideration. Otherwise, it's not really ethical. That being said, couples may place a priority on their primary relationship, but remember, they can only get in return what they give. So it may be that it feels that the power dynamics are off because you're one and they are two and they are together. But we really strive to keep things equal in considering emotions. But it is challenging when you're coming in to actually believe that your feelings are valid and worth being heard, because you haven't put in the time or you haven't been through life together with them as much as they have with each other. But I always remind myself that everything is a two-way street, communication and negotiation and the sharing of emotions. So I may personally be quick to sort of like invalidate myself and my feelings because that's just a programming I've had since I was a kid. So carrying that into relationships is something I've really worked on a lot. So I've kind of pulled the top practices that I've learned through being a long-term unicorn and put them into this quick list for you. So one, don't make assumptions, ask questions. These are also from previous lessons we've done. So two, communicate core values. This I like to do very early on in the relationship. That way everyone understands what's valuable to one another. Three, seek to be understood and understanding. Develop common language for better communication. This is something I had never even considered back 10 years ago when I was monogamous to previous poly relationships. It's this decision we made to all really work towards having some common language, and we've done that through taking some like the same leadership trainings or doing the same meditations and things of that nature, so we can really speak to one another in a way that we know we're being heard and that they're understanding us. We'll ask for definitions of words a lot. Like we've used the date example. Do you want to tell that one really quick, Dee?
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who missed it, it was really simple. It was, I would set up a date, I'm doing air quotes, you'll get it in a second, with Lily or Devin. And then the day would come and we'd get together and, I'd be wearing some outfit and having some imagination of like what the evening was going to be like. It was going to have dinner. It was going to have whatever these components. And for them, and it was actually way more similar for the two of them than it was for me. And it was like, no, I just put a date on my calendar that we're going to see each other. Unless we had actually had a formal discussion that we were going to do a whole, like, we're going to a nice dinner, we're going to opera, we're doing whatever. So I had, like, for me, the nomenclature of date meant something. And it was only, I mean, maybe a little embarrassing to admit, but it was really, really recent that we discovered, we kind of unpacked that. So go ahead, Dev.
Yeah, so that's why this is on the list. Developing common language is just really, really integral and so simple, and I can't believe that I didn't think of it sooner. So I will just ask, like, well, what is your definition of blank? And then I get to understand and, so on and so forth. And the last one, and I think the most important one coming from the quote unquote unicorn perspective, is continued self-love practices to develop a high level of personal awareness. I have been in love a few times in my life. I've dated a lot. I've learned a lot along the way, but I don't know if anything can really compare to being in the situation of dating an established partnership. The level of self-awareness and self-love that you really need to be strong and to be successful in this and to be understood and heard and communicate, it's unparalleled. So as much as all of these things apply to a wide range of relationship styles, like we've said over and over, these ones I feel are particularly important if you're going to date partners. The ability to step back and say, I love myself and I know what I need to take care of myself and have a really firm ground to stand on to walk into this relationship powerfully. It's integral. Ta-da! So it's getting to have a conversation with your partners about what are the things that are really important to you. And these are the things that typically get revealed through feelings like jealousy, because we can say we're pointing our finger at something and saying that this is the cause of my discomfort right now. But I like to take it further and to a deeper level and look at what core value do I feel is not being honored right now. So for Lily, it's her very limited free time. For Daniellow, like, what's one of yours?
Attention on you. He likes having undivided attention. Very important. If I look at my phone while we're talking, I can feel the
Well, intention is incredibly important in my life. Being like trying to operate my
Yeah.
life from a very intentional place and not from an incidental
Incidental.
place. And so if I'm with somebody and I'm feeling like we're having intentional time and they're looking at their phone, I start to feel like their attention or their lack of attention is totally not part of my vision of intention. If that
Devin,
makes sense, yeah.
and I'm using that, you think that'd be a universal core value, but it's Devin and I are not quite as attached to that as he is. And it's we know both of us are not, and so there are times when he has to be like, hey, 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 and get off our phones. At least to me, he doesn't actually touch me. I'm annoying. He's not, but that's the point. Like we don't actually share that core value. That undivided attention is not as big a thing. So he has to express it, and then we get to convey it. But we discover our core values a lot of times through the emotion that we mistakenly believe to be jealousy.
Yeah, and what's really cool is that like if we've said on these slides over the last several weeks and probably prior to that, like go deeper. This is part of the slide where it's like then if you discover this thing, then go deeper.
Go deeper.
Right? And on this one that we're talking about for me, when I go deeper on that, I literally feel like my 7-year-old self that is with maybe my mom, who knows, and she's not giving me attention, but I'm there with her and I don't feel loved. I actually don't feel seen. And so for me to like, that's me going really deep in my experience to know what that's all about. So if I'm with Lily or Devin and they're on their phone, I know exactly what's going on. And so because of that, I don't have to be reactive. I don't have to be explosive because I've identified it. Then I can play along. I can be like, I'll go on my phone then, fine, or whatever.
Yeah. So since I know those core values for both of them, I can look at one of mine, which is trust and being trusted, and I can make decisions. What are we going to do next, and have all those things in mind, and know that there's going to be harmony, and everyone's going to feel considered. And if I didn't know some of those things, I might be stepping on toes without realizing it, or I might be sacrificing something that's really important to me, thinking that it's for the good of the relationship. If I sacrifice something against my values, I'm wondering if that's why you furrowed your brow.
No.
Yeah, it's just a guiding post, really.
When I started out these Polytalks, the very first lesson I did was values. Because you can't play poly unless you know, well, you can, poorly.
It won't go well.
You can try. Good luck. Or you'll discover them as you go along. You can't play poly unless you know your core values and what's really important to you, because now you're messing up with a bunch of other people's core values. It's not just two people trying to figure them out and marry them. You're pulling in all these other different people's perceptions of what matters in the world. Mm-hmm. And that's really intense. And like one of my core values is family. I'm Latina, and my family has a lot of pull for me. So anyone who's going to date me has to know that they're actually competing with my mother all the time. Usually it's a guy that's like that. No, it's me in this case, because my mother calls me every day, and she needs me to do all the things for her, and it's just the way she is, and that is a core value of mine.
Yeah,
she knew that,
and he and I know that.
Yeah, she knew that,
and we help with stuff too, when we can. Like, it's part of the flow. It's also really a powerful place to communicate from, and something that came up in our breakout room was, as a third, one of the things that comes up is like this desire to be building a partnership that could potentially have marriage. And I sometimes feel like, I don't know, I wouldn't say jealousy for this, but I've dealt with feelings that I'm somehow denying myself the possibility of having that by choosing into this relationship. And then instead of looking at it as like a fear of a loss of a vision, I get to look at it as a value that I value someday having that experience when the time is right. I know that it's valuable to me to someday have a partner that I like combine finances and travel, rather than saying like, well, I'm afraid that I'm not going to have this thing. I get to recognize that it's a value to me to have that. So it's just like a positive twist.
That's such a powerful way of looking at it. There have been a bunch of things on this week that I hope people really get, that whenever you're imagining the person across from you and whatever you're lacking or whatever's going on, if you can have that little simple trick of like turning it around and saying, what is this moment shining light on inside of me so I can understand myself better? If you can do that, you'll learn a lot about yourself, and it'll be really valuable for you and your relationships.
And I can boil that whole thing down into just my own self-worth. Am I worthy of having that someday? Yes, I am. Question answered. I don't have to sacrifice to get there. It's just coming. So that's that.
The next thing I said, we're not going to do the second breakout room today. What I want more from everybody else is just, Gina has a survey. I don't know if everyone got it, but if you can post the link, she just did. The survey asks, what are the topics do you want revisited? What do you want us to do? How can we improve our Polytalks? We have some responses already that include more chances for building community. We've had some requests for how to find other poly people, because we are all kind of unicorns in a way.
In the larger schema.
In the larger scheme, and we're asking also, like, what else do you want to hear about? And what do you want to hear about again? Because we've done, this is our 11th one. It's 11. It's actually like 3 months in. And maybe there's a topic that you missed and you want to hear more about. She lists all the topics there. And we can hear some feedback from you guys right now, what else you'd want to hear, or how we'd like to clarify, or it's open floor.
Yeah, share with us. What do you guys want to hear more of?
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining us every week. It's a highlight of the week.
Yeah, we love it.